do you have a deadline for improving your speaking? Maybe you've just got 6 weeks to get better. Maybe there's a big presentation at work. Maybe you're going for a job interview and you've got to do a presentation or give a talk. Perhaps you're going to that conference that will make a huge difference to how you're perceived within your industry. Well, I have a few tips for you coming up if you're under a bit of pressure to improve your communication and your public speaking. But first of all, my name is Shola Kaye. I'm a communication coach based in London. I'm a professional speaker and also a speaker coach and an entertainer. And I love helping people all around the world to improve their speaking and up their game with their speaking. So what we're going to talk about today are some of the areas that you may want to look into if you are under pressure to improve your communication, ready for a big moment, a big event or a high stakes meeting or a high stakes conference. Now, the first thing I want to ask you is, are you an engaging and lively speaker? Are you dynamic when you communicate with others? Because that's one area that you need to look at. You may have the most wonderful content in the world, but if you don't have a bit of life and vigour when you deliver that content, then your message will most likely be lost. Not sure if you've come across the study by Morabian, which was done way back when, I think in California, and essentially people debate the numbers, but essentially what that study revealed is that only a small part of our actual words, the words we speak, form the message that the audience takes away from our communication. And that our tone of voice and also our body language are incredibly important. If you imagine I said, I love you. Right? How unromantic is that versus I love you, right? So just a little 3-word sentence like that, it's very easy for people to glean from the way that we deliver the words, whether we mean them or not, whether we are inspired and full of life regarding that message, or whether we are not congruent with the words that are coming out of our mouth, because our body language and our tone doesn't match up. So that's the first thing. Are you lively enough? Are you dynamic in your own way so that you get your message across completely in a congruent sense and a lively way that people are interested in? Second question for you is, are you telling stories? Are you an inspiring speaker who can move people with the stories that you tell? And I talked about this in more detail in another video, but I referenced Aristotle, who is sometimes referred to as the father of public speaking. And he said that to be a persuasive speaker, we need ethos, which is our credibility. We need logos, which is our logic and our argument of that's the content that's in the content that we're delivering. But also we need pathos, which is the ability to arouse the emotion of the listener. So typically a great way to do that is with storytelling, and also with using what I call you-focused language, which is bringing the audience in by not just talking about yourself, but actually bringing the message out to them and using a lot of the word you, because you is more important than I when we're speakers. Okay, the third thing that I want to ask you is, are you being a valuable speaker? Are you arranging your content in a way that is easy for people to get and to understand? Because quite often when we're creating a presentation, we're in our own heads, we're just trying to get as much information into that presentation as we can. But when we're listening to a speaker, especially if we're in a situation where we don't have handouts, we don't have anything we can follow along with, it can be incredibly taxing. And we need that speaker to paint a very clear picture, give us a very clear pathway of where they're going, and make sure the information is what we need to hear and not too much superfluous information on top that will confuse us rather than help us reach the end result with the speaker. So being a valuable speaker is in part taking away, pruning out some of that excess information so that it's very clear what the audience needs to hear and where they're going and what they need to learn from you. Then also, are you coming across as your authentic self? Are you being yourself when you speak? Which to my mind is so important, because we've all seen speakers who look like they're not comfortable in their own skin. And again, going back to being congruent, our words and our message all fitting together. If you've got somebody who's delivering a message and they just look, if we go back to I love you again, I love you, right? That's not very convincing. If someone said that to me on Valentine's Day, I would send them off, right? So in the same way, is your message being delivered with authenticity? Can somebody look at you and listen to you and get who you are from the way that you're speaking and the way that you're delivering your message? Because that is so important. Another couple of areas to look at as well. Let's go back to delivery a little bit more. Have you thought about how you're delivering your presentation and how you would like to be perceived? Perhaps you want to come across as very relatable so that people feel that you're their friend and they can approach you. Or perhaps you want to come across as somebody with lots of gravitas and somebody who is perhaps an authority, because the two can be quite different. So have you thought about that? Have you thought about how you are going to articulate your key message and where it comes in your presentation and how you are going to punctuate that so that people know that this is the most important thing that they should take away? One more question here is, on top of that, let's say you have to deliver a Q&A and you're a little bit worried about how you're going to get through that, which is quite a typical thing. People often are concerned about being put on the spot. So do you have a system for answering questions that come at you in the Q&A session? Sometimes people might learn broad topics or broad areas where they think they may be asked questions. Sometimes people might devise an entire list of all the questions they think they're going to be asked and work through those. But have you come up with a strategy for tackling your Q&A and speaking extemporaneously in such a way that people are really convinced by you? Well, the reason I'm asking you all of these questions is, first of all, so that you are fully prepared for your next opportunity. But secondly, if you aren't prepared, I have just the thing for you, because I have a course which is called 6 Weeks to Speaking Success. And it has 6 core modules and bonuses also, but each of those modules deals with the questions that I've just asked you. So there's a module on being a dynamic speaker, having a bit of life when you're on stage. There's a module on being inspiring and telling stories. So there are different frameworks for telling stories that you can apply to your speeches. There's a module on how to structure your speech so that you're incredibly valuable as a presenter. There's also a module on being more authentic. So that takes you through a variety of different tests and assessments that you can look at to help you really know yourself as a speaker so that you can really shine out. There's an expression I use, let you shine through, so you can shine through when you're speaking. On top of that, there's a module which is all about being, whether you're wanting to be have more gravitas or be more relatable, and also how you articulate your message, looking at your voice and looking at how to warm up your voice and so on. And then finally, there's a module on how to be better at impromptu speaking. And impromptu speaking could be anything from answering questions in a job interview situation all the way through to answering questions in front of a group in a Q&A session. So this course, it's designed to be taken over 6 weeks. It's lots of little bite-sized lessons that are very easy to digest and to get through. And what I will do is I will provide a link to it in the content here, but essentially if you go to sholakaye.com/6 weeks, so number 6 and then WEEKS, then you will find that course there. And I'm doing, if you're watching this in the month of March, I'm actually running a special offer on this course, and all you need to do is plug in the discount code, which is IWD 2020. That stands for International Women's Day, which is in March. So IWD 2020. And then if you plug that code in, you will get a substantial discount on this course. Never fear if you are watching this video or listening to this podcast later on down the line, because I do offer periodic discounts on this course. But if you're somebody who needs to improve your speaking in a bit of a hurry, and you can identify that those areas that I just talked about will help you to get better, and I think they'll help everyone get better personally, then why don't you take a look at sholakaye.com/6weeks and then plug in that code IWD2020 to get a whopping £200 discount on the course. And I'll see you in 6 weeks' time as a more dynamic, lively speaker, a more inspiring speaker with great stories, a speaker who has a wonderful structure and helps your audience through your content, a speaker who is very authentic and lets themselves shine through and permeate every area of their presentation, a speaker who's great at doing Q&A because they're not afraid of speaking up on the spot, and finally a speaker who understands the difference between being somebody with lots of gravitas versus being relatable and can easily move back and forth between the two as required during their presentations. So check that out, sholakaye.com/6weeks, and I will hopefully see you on the other side of taking 6 weeks to speaking success. Take care.